In this tutorial video, we will be talking about how to create and manage layers. So if you start AutoCAD, once AutoCAD loads, it has to go through a few things as it's loading. There's a couple ways we can create layers. We can create layers by typing in the word layer at the keyboard, and we can also type or create layers by going to the layers property dialog box. So when you open the layers dialog box, AutoCAD starts with a single layer. It varies from year to year. Sometimes they give you a depth points layer, sometimes they give you a layer 0, but they always start with one layer. Layer 0, by the way, is the layer you use to create blocks, and only blocks. You don't put anything else on layer 0. So in our layer dialog box here, we have a few items to look at. One of them is a state manager, the other one is new layers, new layer viewport, and delete layer, and set layer current. We also have a number of things across the top in the layer dialog box. We have an area where you can turn a layer on and off. That makes everything on that layer either visible or invisible. We have a freeze and thaw layer. And freezing and thawing a layer causes it to not only be turned on and off, but it also prevents AutoCAD from recalculating anything that's on that layer as you move around in the drawing, which can speed up how your computer works if it's a large drawing. We can lock layers, unlock them. We can change the color of a layer. We can change the line type that's in a layer. And we can change the line weight. Now the line weight won't be visible when it's on the screen, but when you print whatever you've drawn, then the line weight will become apparent. We also have transparency. You can make things on that layer appear, we'll say, full strength, or appear somewhat transparent, meaning you can see through them, or it looks like it's been dimmed. We also have plot style. We have whether or not you allow the layer to print. You can turn that icon on and off. You can also turn off layers that are in viewports if you have more than one viewport showing on your screen. And then of course we have description. So what we're going to do here is we're going to show you how to create layers and how to set up the attributes for each layer. So the first thing I'm going to do though is I'm going to look at my layering convention. So what we have here is we have a couple of text boxes that show us industry layers, how they would be named. We've just picked a color to associate with them. We've picked a line weight, and then the line types that are associated with those layers. So what we'll do here is let's create our center lines first. And so I'm going to minimize this, and the way I do that is I'm going to go up to my new layer icon. I'm going to click on it, and then you get a blue box, and we'll call it, I'm going to have my cap lock on, center lines, and then I'll hit enter. And so there's my first layer, and it adopted all the properties of layer 0. We're going to leave it on. We're not going to freeze it. We're going to keep it unlocked. But then we're going to assign to it a color. It says color number 1, and it has a line weight of 0.30. So I'm going to go to my color wheel, or my color dialog box, and where it says white, I'm going to put in the number 1 and hit enter. And as you can see, the number 1 is red. And then AutoCAD comes loaded with just a continuous line. You have all the lines available to you, all the line types, but it only comes with one actually loaded in the layer, and it's a continuous line. But we call this center lines because we want the center lines that are a line type to be on the center line layer. So I'm going to go down and click load. I'm going to click on the very top one. I'm going to move all the way down, holding the shift key down. I'm going to click on the last one and click OK. And what I've just done is I've just loaded all the line types into this drawing. Not into the layers, but into the drawing itself. So I'm going to go down there alphabetized. I'm going to click on center. Notice there's a center 2, there's a center X2. These have to do with how large the center line is. So the center line is a normal size, and then the center line 2 and the center line X2 are different than the normal size. So we're just going to click on center line type. As you can see, I now have my center line type loaded. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to click on, or we're going to tell our layer how we want the line weight to be, or what line weight do we want. We want the 0.30. So I'm going to click on the word default and go down to 0.30 right there. We're not going to do anything with the transparency, the plot style, the plot, the viewport, or the description. The more layers you have, you might want to start putting something in the description. And just to show you how it's done, come on, let me click on it. Okay, here we go. So this layer contains center lines. Now that's pretty evident by the title, but some titles can get rather obscure looking. Maybe the names of your layers are just numbers because you have so many of them. And you might want to come over here and put a description of what's on that layer, because if the name of the layer was 5.789, just an arbitrary number I picked, that would not tell you what's on those layers. But we don't have that many layers, so we're just going to call the layers by what's on them. So that's how you create your layers. So I'm going to close this layer out. I'm going to go back up here to where the layer is broadcast. Based on what I select or what I pick will determine what layer is broadcasting. So if I go to the line command, that line just adopted all the characteristics of that layer. So let's say I put that on the wrong layer. I go up here and click it, and I can put it back on whatever layer I want. So it's better to make the layer broadcast and then create the object, but sometimes we forget, and so you can go up and you can change what layer that object is on. So now I'm going to go up here and show you how we can control some things. So I'm going to turn this layer off. Now it's telling me, hey, this is the current layer. You sure you want to turn it off? Yes, I do. So now everything that's on that layer has disappeared. It's not deleted, it's just turned off, so you can't see it. Okay, I've turned it back on. Now I'm going to freeze it. It's asking me, it says this layer can't be frozen because it's current. Okay, so what I'm going to do then, so I'm going to go up and make the 0 layer broadcast, and I'll then go back and turn that layer off. Actually, I froze that layer. Not thought it, I froze it. So now it's just like turning it off, but also when you freeze a layer, it prevents AutoCAD from recalculating all the information associated with that layer as you zoom around, pan around, move around in your drawing, because everything you see on the screen has information behind the pictures that AutoCAD has to keep track of. And when you thaw those, AutoCAD goes, oh, I don't have to keep track of those right now. So if you have a really large drawing, maybe you're working in solids or who knows what, maybe you have a really large floor plan, it will speed up how your computer functions. So I can turn it back on. I can also lock a layer. Those are the most common things we do with an object. If I turn my layers dialog box back on, I can also do all those things right here as well. So that is how you create layers. That's how you import your line types into your layers, how you change the color, how you change the line weight, how you turn them on and off, how you freeze them, thaw them, lock them, and of course changing transparency, and whether or not you allow them to plot. If I click on this, see that little symbol that appears next to it? It's kind of like back in the, this will date me, back in the 70s, when some places didn't want you smoking inside. They have a picture of a cigarette, and then they have a circle with a line through it. You know, it's the no symbol, so there's no plot there. And that are the basics about how to create layers and manage your layers.